Well, in our first story, the governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison, has emphasized the need for central banks in sub-Saharan Africa to coordinate monetary policy measures aimed to stabilize prices on the African continent. According to him, the impact of recent geopolitical tensions and the COVID-19 pandemic on developing countries underscored the need for increased harmonization of the monetary policy tools to withstand global shocks. There's more in this report.
Dr. Addison spoke at the Financial Stability Board meeting of the Regional Consultative Group for Sub-Saharan Africa in Accra. He observed that the inflation rate across countries in Sub-Saharan Africa stressed the need for African countries to work together in order to control price levels between countries. He maintained that such a move will enhance trade among African countries, reducing Africa's dependency on imports outside the continent.
The war in Ukraine has triggered a costly humanitarian and economic crisis. Global spillovers from the conflict is contributing adversely to sustaining the nascent recovery in global growth. It has already aggravated inflationary pressures, especially for fuel and food, and this elevated inflation will complicate the trade-offs that central banks face within the region between containing price pressures and safeguarding growth.
On his part, the governor of the South African Reserve Bank, Lesja Ganyango, stressed that African countries must immediately work together to bring inflation down on the continent.
Inflation, I am sure it will come so many at times. And when one has to ask what keeps central banks awake, and you will arrive at three issues. The first one would be inflation, the second one will be inflation, and the third one will be inflation. And that is actually what is confronting us, that we are now faced with this issue of global inflation. In our response to the pandemic, the response was speedy, it was to scale, but it was very clear that the measures that were taken were wartime measures, and that at some stage they would have to be withdrawn. As the global economy opened up and demand started to rise, it became clear that the supply chains could not cope with the rise in demand.
Well, still on the subject of inflation, the Bank of Ghana has indicated that it expects inflation rate to slow down by September despite current developments in the economy, as May inflation rate reached a record high of 27.6%. There are projections that prices of petroleum products and transfer fares will go up significantly in the coming days. Now, this has raised concerns about earlier projections that the rate of increase for inflation will start slowing down by end of the third quarter of this year. Philip Abredu-Otu is head of research at the Bank of Ghana. He has been speaking with my colleague, George Afe.
It's a marginal slowdown. But if you recall, I think the governor did indicate at his press conference that we are expecting inflation to peak somewhere around June, July. Yes, the latest numbers also came in a little bit strong, almost equivalent to what we saw in April. But I think the numbers will come down. It cannot continue forever. Monetary policy will begin to work. Our discussions with the meteorological department and the data that we are seeing, the rains this year look a little bit better than last year, and given the rains and then the temperature combination, I think the forecast is for the food situation to improve as we move into September. So as we move into September, we are likely to see a somewhat improved situation with monetary policy also working alongside to contain the non-food aspect, and we should see the numbers beginning to come down.
Do you think that this informs your judgment and even in the communication in telling the market that, listen, we don't want to run after inflation, and therefore let's really be careful in putting pressure on the monetary space to react immediately the rates are going up?
No, but see, if you look at what we did at the last MPC, it is clear we were not running after inflation. Because if we were running after inflation, we probably would have done the full haul of the change in inflation plus an extra. We did not do that. That would have meant that we should have gone up by some 7 percentage points. It tells you that we are looking at other factors aside inflation, and it's not wholly inflation driven.
I mean, whilst you want to be careful about not having too much squeeze on the market, what else are you also doing to deal with the offshore confidence bit because of the real returns on their investment and what the spike in inflation is going to do to them?
We do interact with investors a lot. In our last interaction a month ago, I think the offshore investors are aware of the situation. The offshore investors did indicate to us that inflation will be going up. They were even a little bit more bullish on inflation than we were. When I say bullish, in the sense that they thought inflation would be rising a little bit higher than what we so in their calculus, they know they will have to live with some negative real interest rates for some time to come, and they factored all these things in their calculation. Actually, looking ahead, these investors told us that they are confident that come next year, if we are able to hold the current tightness in monetary policy, inflation will be slipping down very fast. I think the onus on the central bank is to ensure that we don't lose the guard and that we continue to maintain a tight monetary policy stance to ensure that when the benefits of a fall in inflation is coming, we'll get it more deep and get inflation slide down bigger.
You're watching The Marketplace. Minority MPs are furious despite assurances from the majority leadership. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta is not appearing before the House to answer questions from MPs. According to the business statement for the week and Wednesday's provisional order paper, Ken Ofori-Atta was expected to answer 16 questions, including accounting for COVID-19 expenditure. But this morning's order paper has the Finance Minister conspicuously missing. Parliamentary correspondent Kwawu Asante is following this for us. Kwawu, any indication why the Finance Minister could not appear?
So, Daryl, the government majority business side have not presented any evidence yet or to explain to members of the House why this has happened. In fact, what we are picking is that this is part of why the House has delayed in starting. In fact, the Speaker of Parliament just came in like 5 minutes ago. The sitting just started. We are expecting that some explanation will be offered. I see Honorable John Kuma, who is Deputy Finance Minister in the House, but the Finance Minister himself is not here. These are questions that have been postponed for a number of times because the Finance Minister could not make time at the time the questions were asked. And so the minority were very much hoping that the Finance Minister will be here to answer some of these questions. And just like we've said, major of these questions that the Finance Minister was expected to answer is having to do with COVID-19 expenditure and how much government has spent, why they had to spend it this way, in light of accusations that government has been mismanaging COVID-19 expenses. And so it is expected to be a big showdown here in Parliament with the minority expected to forcefully push. We know that if you look at today's order paper, although the Finance Minister is not coming to answer these questions, there are some loan agreements that the Finance Minister is presenting to the House, totaling about $1 billion. And so the Finance Minister is asking Parliament to approve $1 billion, but he's not here. What we know is usually the deputy ministers will lay these papers on his behalf. But what sources are telling us is that the majority are going to insist that if the Finance Minister is not here himself, then they will not approve these loan agreements or they will not be part of it. And so it's expected to be what the minority have said, a showdown to try and make the point forcefully to the Finance Minister that he cannot take Parliament for granted.
Well, put this in context for us, Kwawu, why the MPs want to hear the Finance Minister account for the money spent on COVID-19 and how much we are talking about.
So billions of funds have accrued to COVID-19 funds in terms of loan agreements. Also, some IMF and World Bank funds that they gave government to help government fight for this. And the minority have been pushing for an independent probe to demand that Parliament should constitute a committee to investigate the circumstances and the manner in which some of these funds have been expended. The majority side have been pushing back, asking the minority to wait until the Auditor General himself investigates this. But according to the minority side, it's important for Parliament, being the representative of the people directly, to demand these answers for their constituents. So for weeks, there was no kind of agreement. But if you look at the other paper, there's a question in the name of a majority MP, Honorable Frank Anodompre, who is the majority chief whip, asking the finance minister how some of these funds have been expended. We know these funds going into $30 billion have been spent since Ghana recorded its first case of COVID-19. But so far, not much of accountability has been done. What the government side has always maintained is that Parliament can wait, the Auditor General will do his own investigation, and then when they have any concerns, they can take it up at the Public Accounts Committee. But we know the Public Accounts Committee's report are usually in lag. So the Auditor General will probably investigate 2022, 2021 expenditures the next 2-3 years. And the minority are saying that this is not something we can wait for. And so the finance minister has been pressured to come and present these $30 billion, $40 billion that they spent so far and tell Ghanaians why they had to spend the money those ways. We know that at the height of COVID-19, government spent millions of dollars on one hot meal for Ghanaians. The minority said that is not a prudent use of state resources, and so they were trying to get some of these answers. As it is now, the minority won't get the answers because the finance minister will not be here.
And Kwawu, this accountability are much needed, especially when the economy is in dire straits. We are battling inflation and rising debt, and the government is expected to manage spending. Tell us a bit more. You have been speaking with some MPs. How are they reacting to this? And we need to point out that this is not the first time the finance minister has had to come before Parliament and then he doesn't show up.
Indeed, Daryl, for the whole of this session of Parliament, the finance minister has not been in the House at all. When it comes to loan agreements, resolutions, other papers to be laid, either his deputies or other ministers do it on his behalf. And so what they have been doing is to try and get some answers from the deputies, but they say that the deputies do not have these answers. And so I spoke to Kwawu Akando this morning, for instance, livid. He's angry. They say the finance minister is taking the House for granted. He does not respect them. He does not see the work of Parliament as a major issue that he has to come and attend to it. And so we are expecting that in the next few sessions of Parliament, the minority are going to demand that unless the finance minister is here himself, no loans agreement will be passed. Of course, they don't have the numbers to do that. The majority by themselves can go ahead and do so. But well, they want to pass some of these agreements without bipartisan support. This is something that we are looking at in the House at the moment.
All right, and Akando, as you reported earlier, even calling for the sack of the finance minister. Just before you go, just by way of recapping some of the loan agreements that are supposed to be put forward before the House today.
If you look at the other paper, we have the loan agreement between the government of the Republic of Ghana, represented by the Finance Ministry, of about $750 million to finance capital and growth-related expenditures in the 2022 budget. The second is a syndicated term loan agreement of a consortium of banks, South African Rand Bank, London branch, the Standard Bank for South Africa, and also Standard Chartered Bank. About $250 million or so. So if you add this together, you have about $1 billion that the finance minister is asking Parliament to approve so that government can use to finance parts of the 2022 budget.
All right, Kwawu Asante, grateful for your report this afternoon. We'll be checking with you to find out how things go or pan out in the House. As we are told today, the finance minister failed to turn up to account for COVID-19 expenditure, amongst others. Grateful that you could join us. Now, the Bank of Ghana has described as worrying the rate at which security personnel are falling victims to Ponzi schemes. To reverse the trend, the bank has offered financial literacy training to personnel of the Ghana Immigration Service in the Ashanti region. The training was aimed at empowering the security personnel with knowledge in managing their finances and to make the right financial decisions. Emmanuel Bright Kwawu has more in this report.
The workshop is part of the Bank of Ghana's annual activities to educate the public on financial management. The training covered critical areas including identification of licensed financial institutions, official means to lodge complaints, loan applications, and money laundering. According to statistics by the central bank, the majority of complaints received are sourced from security personnel. Godfred Kujo of the Financial Stability Department of the bank says most of the security personnel are victims of Ponzi schemes.
We have been doing this for about 2 years now, where we have targeted our security agencies. So we have done this sensitization for the military and Ghana police, and it's the turn of the immigration. And this is very important because we notice that, and this is from our complaint statistics, that a number of complainants are coming from the security agency, and then especially when it comes to when there's a Ponzi scheme within the country, we notice that our security agencies are the most hit. So when we look at the complaints that are coming from the public in terms of a Ponzi scheme that they have engaged themselves in, we notice that our security agencies are the top types of complainants, and that's why we thought that it's important that we sensitize them on some of these things so that it doesn't repeat itself.
The Bank of Ghana cautioned the public against disposing of their mobile SIM cards after borrowing money from the telecommunication networks. According to Godfred Kujo, this will affect the ability to access a loan from the banks.
We notice that a few of the public, we use our Momo to apply for these loans, and then we throw the SIM cards away, thinking that it is free money and nobody is coming back at us. What we should understand is that this information is being kept by the credit bureaus. It means that another time, if you need loan and you go to a bank, and then the bank will check and know that you once took a Momo loan and you did not pay. And this will affect your ability of getting a loan when you highly need that funds. So our advice to the public is that if you take a Momo loan, you need to pay back.
Chief Accountant at the Ashanti Regional Command of the Ghana Immigration Service, Joshua Mensah Ayete, says the training would help in reducing the growing statistics of staff losing money to Ponzi schemes.
I handle issues of accounts over here. That is why I also came in. But some of the issues, example, the complaints issues and all those things, some of us were not privy to some of this information as to the levels we are supposed to go through for our issues to be resolved. And so we are very grateful to the Financial Stability Department for this particular training.
The training is expected to be replicated across all other security agencies. For JoyNews, Emmanuel Bright reporting.
And let's turn to mining because stakeholders are calling for cool heads to handle compensation misunderstandings in order not to deprive communities in the Newmont Ahafo North mining area of the injection of millions of dollars expected to boost economic activities. Some individuals are in court seeking to injunct Newmont from developing its Ahafo North mines over compensation issues. Focus, a non-government organization, wants the government to intervene. Here's Precious Semevo with more.
The Ahafo North project development of Newmont mines is expected to inject about $850 million into the economy of the local communities and Ghana as a whole to help drive development. But that appears to have stalled in what some stakeholders insist would be detrimental to the people. This is due to compensation misunderstandings, despite efforts by the Ministry of Land and Natural Resources and Environmental Protection Agency, among others, and the Ahafo North Resettlement and Negotiation Committee, handling the compensation of properties after 2017 and before the 2017 mining area declarations, respectively. Focus, a non-governmental organization committed to promoting community development, environmental sustainability, and human rights, says the communities are already benefiting even before the mining company starts operations. This, they said, should be considered during deliberations. Victor Jaban speaks for Focus.
We understand the delicate nature of this conversation, and we encourage all parties to sit around the table for a fruitful conversation. That said, we are concerned as NGO that anybody who takes steps that will freeze the Newmont project and subsequently impact the economic and social benefits of the project to the many facets of the communities. Newmont has so far paid a whopping amount of $22 million as compensation for crops in the 10 Afro mining communities. This distinctly will better the livelihoods of our farmers and their dependents. The Afro project serves as economic driver for the local economy. It is attracting investors to the local economy.
While they appeal to those in court to reconsider their actions, Focus also wants the government to be central in resolving the issues to pave the way for further development.
Focus is mindful of the negative impacts of mining companies, but we have the firm belief that with a strong collaboration and partnership, we can better manage the negative and maximize the positive. This is why we call on the individuals who are taking the matter to court to, as a matter of urgency, withdraw the issue from court, as the court injunction has halted the project development. NABEL funds for development and scholarship, etc., and above all, compensation payments for beneficiaries have been halted. We also ask that stakeholders such as the central government, Regional Coordinating Council, Municipal Assembly, Nananum and other NGOs come in to ensure that this matter is resolved.
Precious Semevo, Joy News, Susanso.
We'll see how that story unfolds. Now, the Ghana Hubs Network, a non-government organization, is due to hold its maiden Hackathon 2022 competition for innovators and entrepreneurs. The purpose of the project is to build an inclusive database system application for the Ghanaian entrepreneurship and innovation ecosystem. The network has been engaging entrepreneurs in the northern region, from where Martina Bugri sent us this report.
The northern sector brought together entrepreneurs from the northeast, upper east, and northern regions. The aim of the project is to lead the development of a cohesive and strengthened technology and business ecosystem in Ghana. Speaking at the event, the Director of Finance at Ghana Hubs Network, George Ntripo-Siako, said on database development, and the winners will be guided to build the ecosystem platform.
So after the fifth hackathon, what we're doing is that at every zone we select one team to represent the zone. So as of now we have four zonal teams. So we need a team from this fifth zone, so that we will have a national hackathon whereby all the 5 teams will come together, and then they will actually showcase the idea that they have in building the database system for the Ghana Hubs Network.
A board member of the GHN and CEO of Hopkins Academy, Makati Makbati, said GHN is an enabler umbrella organization of all the hubs in Ghana that works with government to help develop businesses.
We are Hopkins Academy is a member hub to the Ghana Hubs Network, which has over 53 to 60 hubs in all the 16 regions of Ghana. The Ghana Hubs Network is an enabler umbrella organization that works with all these hubs and also work with government in terms of discussing policy that has to govern entrepreneurship and startup activities, policies on infrastructure and all that for startups and entrepreneurial and enterprise activities here.
Masahudu Sahadatu and Aminatu Abdullahi said the forum will help project their businesses.
It's been a very good exposure. We came here yesterday to meet like-minded, and it's very surprising to see females like us engage in the tech program. I really hope my team wins this program.
The Ghana Hubs Network engaging entrepreneurs ahead of Hackathon 2022. So if you are an entrepreneur, we've got some business tips for you on Fund It. Watch this.
Hello guys, you are once again welcome to Fund It with me, Dr. Thelma from the Desert Youth Services and Consultancy. Today, we are still looking at modern means of raising funds for your business, and we will talk about bootstrapping. Now, bootstrapping simply means putting your own money together or saving your own finances over a period of time to raise some sort of capital for your business. Once you know or you have an idea of going into business, one sure means of raising funds is bootstrapping. So let's say you want to start up a business in the next 2 years. You know that you have the 2 years ahead of you to save financially to get the sort of capital you need. Once more, sometimes too, funders would want to fund a business in which the entrepreneur or the business owner has some commitment, and so one sure way of doing that is to bootstrap, where you put your own resources together to raise some part of the capital you need and get support for the other part that is left. And so bootstrapping is a sure way of funding your business as well. Thank you for your time, and thank you Labadi Beach for hosting us.
And that's our program this afternoon. More news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. My name is Daryl. Kwawu. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of the day.